Hi there, it's Natasha, and today we are going to create a die cut inlay using this die that you can see on the screen now. First up, I have this set here that on the left that you can see from Waffle Flower. This is the Waffle Flower Lacy Layers one, and the only one I'm using out of it is the 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 stitched border die. So it creates a card front size with the stitching around the edge. I'm a really big advocate that you should just use what you have, whether it be branded or unbranded. So I happen to have this one, and that's what I've used today. I have some sort of charcoal coloured cardstock and some Nina Solar white cardstock, and I'm just going to cut down the Nina part so that it leaves around about a 1/8 of an inch border around the outside for the charcoal layer. I will be doing some die cut inlay, and I will die cut it out of the white and then also a second piece of charcoal paper. So there you go, you can see that I've got the border sorted, and then now I'm going to work on some of the die cutting. On this die, I really like the upper part of it. I was looking at which part I wanted to show, and I want that top leafy part to be the main part in the die. So I'm using my grid mat to line it up to make sure that I've got it straight. I'll straighten it up in a second. And then just using a little piece of washi tape to hold it down whilst I run it through my die cutting machine. So I've run it through, and I'm ever so gently going to take this apart. I need all of the pieces to stay exactly where they are. I don't want them all coming out, otherwise I'll never be able to put them back again. I did end up running this die through with this scrap piece of paper that you can see as a sort of shim, and it's pretty much stuck to that piece of paper just gently. So as I said, I took it all out gently and I want it to stay put. From here, I'm also going to run it through with this charcoal piece, and the charcoal piece has stick-it adhesive on the back of it, just to make my life a little bit easier when I am trying to stick all of these parts down. So you could make 2 cards out of this, but I was just concentrating on making one for the moment. So I'm taking out all of the negative pieces, I guess, the parts that are in between the die and the pattern, and then I'm left with this delicate floral or maybe fauna die cut. So I'm just spending some time picking out all of the little pieces gently. They do come out really easily, if not a little bit trickier with the stick-it adhesive, but they do come out easily. This is a little bit of a fiddly card, but I promise that it will all be worth it in the end, I think. So taking out all the little pieces, all that I had to be careful is because it's so delicate, and especially when I take off this release paper on the back here, is that I needed to make sure it was straight. So that's where I thought that I would put the pieces back in for where the white is going to go, the white cardstock. Because when something's that flimsy, it can become distorted when you end up putting it down. So I knew there was about that much of a border, so I've used some wet glue to pop that white piece down on the left, and then I'm going to butt this die cut, the charcoal one, right up next to that white one. I want it to sit absolutely flush with the edge of the white cardstock, and then from there I'll be able to gently pat it down, and it should go in relatively as it should be. So from here, I'm just using some liquid glue, and that is the multi-medium in the matte finish, and I'm just dotting some little glue in between all of the spaces where the negative part of the die was, and I'm using the white die cut to replace them back in. So the card will effectively be a 1-layer card. It'll be completely flat and a continuous surface on top, but it'll be made up of these different parts of cardstock. This was a nice big piece that came together nice and quickly. The odd time I had to pull the charcoal die cut through the white one, and then replace the charcoal one, just gently push it back down so that it would sit as it was meant to be. like with this part here, I end up pulling it through a little bit, just so I can get the perfect placement. Because in this case, the white one was more sturdy than the little charcoal thin parts that I was trying to put down. So you can see there, it just all fits into place. It's just like putting together a puzzle. And so I have sped this part up because it did take me a little bit of time. It probably, it took me around maybe 5 to 7 minutes or so. And it was just involved putting the glue in and then finding the piece that was meant to fit in and gently popping it in. It actually wasn't as tedious as I thought it might be. You just want to pick a design that doesn't have too many little pieces. This one is probably my limit for patience. So I wised up and put plenty of glue in all the little places, and then I was able to do several in one go at one time. And there are a couple of tiny wee pieces that I just use my tweezers for, and the rest of them I was able to just use my fingers. So I'm nearly done here, and then I spot a couple up the top that look a bit funny, like they're missing something. So there's that top wee corner bit in there, and then one teeny tiny one up there that just makes it look far more finished. Okay, so we did that and we did well. So now I've got the second panel here that we just need to pop on the other side, and just using some matte medium to pop that on. And it will butt up again, right up against the little border of that die there. So it's just one continuous piece now, and I'll give you a close-up view. Okay, so next from here I'm going to put a little sentiment on it, and I'm going to use this smile die. I've cut out one in the same charcoal cardstock that I've used for the rest of the background of the card front, and I've also cut it out 3 times in Nina Solar white cardstock, which is the same as the white cardstock on the card front. And I'm trying it both ways, whether I like the charcoal in front or the white in front. And in the end, I really like the simplicity of the white in front. So I'm just going to add some matte medium to the back of each one and stack these up so that they become a nice thick, almost chipboard-like sentiment. So I just kind of even them together with my fingers to make sure that they're all lining up perfectly and seamlessly. And then I'm going to add the little charcoal coloured one as an ever so slight drop shadow in the background. And it just helps it stand out a little bit because it is white on white, and that little the floral pattern of the die cut is a busy wee pattern. So there you go, you can just see ever so slightly I have offset it, and then that I'm going to pop that on the front. I did lose a little bit of the footage here after I'd done this, so I apologise, but I have some still shots of the finished card. I'm just going to add some Wink of Stella to make it sparkle and some white Nuvo drops, and that is my card for today. Thank you so much for joining me once again. I really appreciate it, and I hope you enjoyed this card. See you next time. Thanks. Bye.